Welcome on into the First Round Fantasy Podcast. Your home for second round advice. I'm joined today by the full crew, and we got a breaking news story. Well, it's likely that you heard of it by now, but it's unlikely that you've heard of the fantasy relevance that it brings to the Indianapolis Colts, and that is the Carson Wentz trade that landed him in Indy. We're here to break it down for you. First off and foremost, Carson Wentz. This has got to be an upgrade to him, right? He was riding the bench in Philly. Now he finds himself in Indy. Joseph, what's your initial reaction?
I'm happy. I talked about this the other day on the podcast, and I was actually, after that podcast, Jacob and I were chatting, and I don't know if Jacob remembers this, but we're in a dynasty league, and I have Herbert, and I have Kyler, and my third quarterback is Wentz. It's a super quarterback, 2-quarterback league. And I was like, dude, I'm in trouble. If Wentz doesn't go somewhere, I don't have a third guy for injuries and for bye weeks. And now it's looking like Wentz has found a home, and I'm happy. I like it.
Justin, you feeling the same, or you agree to disagree?
No, this is awesome for both parties. And the biggest takeaway I have for this is that I hope it brings another tight end to the fantasy relevance, because what we see with him in Philly, we need another tight end, so hopefully one of those guys there, it's going to be a good match all around. But good for Wentz. He needs a change of scenery. This might be the best possible place I can see him going to.
2 for 2. Jacob, you want to keep the streak alive?
I mean, exactly what Justin said. This is the best possible place for him that had a vacancy. It's so crazy how, let's say they said Wentz is the starter in Philadelphia for sure. Then it's going to be the same as last year. He's going to get beat up. They're going to be terrible. He's going to be running around, getting hit. And now it's a completely different situation. That offensive line is going to protect him. So he's going to be hit less during the game. He's going to last longer during the season. He's going to be able to play better. He's going to have more time. And he's back with Frank Reich, who was one of his coaches when he had that 2017 year, when he had his best season. So this is incredible. And I am curious, though, how it affects the rest of the Colts players, though, fantasy-wise.
And it's interesting that you bring that up, Jacob. Joseph and I were talking about it earlier, right when it initially happened. And the first question I asked him is, hey, does this make Carson Wentz fantasy relevant? And more specifically, can he be a top 15 quarterback next season? Joseph, I'll let you carry that conversation that we had earlier.
Yeah, so I think today, if I'm looking at it, and Gabe, on Twitter we were having this conversation. So guys, go check out the First Round Fantasy Twitter. Gabe posed the question. I helped answer. One guy I forgot to mention was Jalen Hurts, who I like better than him fantasy-wise next year too.
Oh, guys. My goodness.
So I had at least 15 guys that I like better. That doesn't mean that Wentz doesn't have top 15 potential. He's in an interesting situation where he's been getting beat up in Philly, and every year it seems like they have 4 or 5 receivers, and then by the end of the year they're playing guys off the street, right? They just can't stay healthy over there. So I'm excited for this opportunity. I think that he does have top 12 potential, but right now he's not in my top 15. I'm not looking to go out and get him. Now, things could change. They could go out and get a Kenny Golladay. They could go out and get a Godwin. That will bump him up a couple spots for sure. And just like we talked about last year, if you have a guy who's fringe top 10, supplement him with Wentz, a high upside guy, low risk. You could probably get him at the end of the draft, maybe even in free agency. So I like it.
Yeah, you bring up so many good points there. And one being the other side of the ball that we haven't talked about, which I'm sure we'll get into in just a second here. But back to Carson Wentz. To put it in perspective, Phillip Rivers, twilight of his career, actually the end of his career, was top 20 quarterback last year for fantasy. Obviously, we all agree that Carson Wentz is an upgrade, playing behind a better line. Joseph mentioned that they need to improve that wide receiver position, so they could go out in free agency, get someone like a Chris Godwin, Kenny Golladay, all those names we talked about on the last podcast. Mm-hmm. But Justin, do you think he has top 15 potential if they address that wide receiver need?
Yeah, I would wager to say that he's going to be that guy that is your bye-week fill safety blanket, and he has the upside of making top 12, but that's if some injuries happen, and that's if he revert back to his best. Like when he went crazy that year, he needs to limit his picks. That's the issue. And I think when you play in that team is probably the most disciplined team out there. So from a fantasy perspective, I'm saying, hey, Wentz is going to be safe. He's not going to be in so many positions that he has to sling it because we know they love to run and it's a good defense. So hopefully he's playing ahead and can actually take time. And I want to see interceptions down, touchdowns up, and him to be a decent quarterback. I'm not going to jump to pick him. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't draft him. I would wait, but I would love to have him as my QB2 as a safety blanket because he might be the best one out there.
So let's bring up this question, Jacob, because Justin brought up some good points as well. Who are you taking next year? Jalen Hurts or Carson Wentz? Who has the better fantasy year next year, 2021?
To me, that's no question. It's Jalen Hurts for multiple reasons. I will say if I needed one drive to win a game, I would take Carson Wentz. But if you're going fantasy wise, Jalen Hurts has the rushing ability. He was blowing it up at the end of last year. And the Eagles are a worse team, a worse defensive team. They're going to be behind or in shootouts and a lot more time on the field for Jalen Hurts. So I think because of those things that he'll be slightly above Carson Wentz. Like I think Hurts is on that 12 to 15 range, and Carson Wentz is right outside of that.
You guys agree?
Yeah, 100%. Listen, and Jacob, Jalen Hurts has top 10 potential. We've seen it with Lamar Jackson 2 years ago. We saw
he does.
Kyler Murray last year with Josh Allen.
Is he the next one taking that Kyler Murray jump? I don't think so, but I if I had to put money on it today, I would say around the 12th spot. But you're right. He has the potential to be much higher than that.
Just because he can run, like you said, and he can throw. Listen, there was some games last year where he had 350 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's not a bad passer. And you're right. They're going to be down a lot. And Miles Sanders, I don't think he's a 20 carry a game back. So I think Miles Sanders actually gets a boost with Hurts like we saw at the end of last year. It's just a better situation for both guys, I think.
Do you take Hurts or Stafford?
Stafford. The weapons are too good.
Yeah.
Stafford. Now, guys, I want to transition here, but before I do, I've been begging for a book it down, our first book it down of 2021, and we're going to go for a tandem twosome right here. First up, Jalen Hurts. Is he a top 10 fantasy quarterback next season? Does anyone believe that he is a top 10 quarterback next season? Say aye.
You're putting the bar too high.
Let's go top 12.
Because
top 15.
I'll take that. I think he goes top 12.
Top 12?
Yeah.
Do I get 2 for top 12?
Look, I'll say top 12, but the thing is, I don't like making our bucket downs this early because the teams aren't set yet.
True.
You know, I
mean, fair enough.
But listen. I think we can all agree right here. Okay, you're right, Jacob. The Eagles might go out and get a wide receiver. That could change Jalen Hurts' outlook. But I'm saying even with them doing nothing, even just running it back with the young guys, not doing anything, but as long as he gets that quarterback spot, I'm hearing the Eagles plan to have a quarterback competition. I think that's all coach speak, as we always say. He's the quarterback. As long as he's the starting quarterback next year, as long as he plays 16 games, he's going to be a top 12 guy.
Does he finish ahead of Matt Ryan, ahead of Joe Burrow? Like, that's top 12 is kind of harder than you think these days. There's rookies from last year. And you got Trevor Lawrence coming in. Like, he's fringe. Could he be better than Tannehill? Maybe, but I can also see Tannehill being better than him, you know? That's very hard. I like it. Top 12 is a nice spot for him.
Time and time again, I tend to jump the gun, and it looks like I did it again here today. But guess what? That will be a book it down in the future, and this is your fantasy analysis of the Carson Wentz trade. Feel free to follow us on Instagram at First Round Fantasy or Twitter at First Round Fantasy, like Joe mentioned earlier.
Let me ask you this while Gabe gets back. You have to pick Wentz or Taysom Hill.
Carson Wentz or Taysom Hill to be my quarterback, or for fantasy purposes?
For fantasy. Assuming
if they say Taysom Hill is the starter, that's tough.
I'm going to go Taysom Hill.
All right, can you guys hear me?
I agree.
Yeah, we got you.
You're
You're back.
And I don't even have to edit that because Justin saved it.
How do you save it?
Oh, he just kept it going. But hold on, Michael Pittman Jr. Do you guys think this helps him?
100%.
Yeah.
He can get more long balls. He has more opportunity. Phillip was just at the end of days, and it was hard watching him play. So this is obviously an upgrade all around.
Yeah, I agree. And I think they will bring in somebody. I don't know how Wentz coming in affects the cap, but they had the most cap space or second most cap space going into free agency. So I still think they're going to add possibly a wide receiver. Maybe it's not a star, but they have the 21st pick in the draft. They could draft. Look, we see rookie wide receivers making immediate impacts. This guy, Devontae Smith, he's projected a little bit higher than the 21st pick, but if he drops to him, you never know. So,
yeah, I think Michael Pittman stands to be the guy that
gets
the most benefit.
Look, maybe they add a Corey Davis,
yeah,
something
and
like
I think
that.
Justin's also spot on with bringing another tight end into the being relevant. The question is who, right? The Colts have Mo Alley Cox, they have Jack Doyle,
Trey Burton
as
well.
They've got 3 guys there, and I'd love to see one of those guys emerge. And I also heard, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was a week or 2 ago that the Colts were looking at Zach Ertz.
Zach Ertz is a free agent.
Is he a free? I think he has 1 year, and they were talking about either trading him or cutting him. Yeah.
Oh, I thought he had. I thought he was a free agent this year because I could have sworn he was.
I'll give you an underground tip, and this is to me a match made in heaven. If they sign Jacob Hollister from the Seahawks, he's good, and he had a couple injuries. It would be good matchup over there. There's a good amount of low-end free agent tight ends that can spot in with a good team and become a relevant tight end, in my opinion.
Oh, I think you're right, Joe. I could have sworn this whole time that
it looks like there's a potential out, Jacob, and I think being able to cut him without getting killed.
Okay, so that's why I thought he was a free agent. So it's possible, hey, he goes right over there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's possible. I don't think Ertz is done. I think just like Wentz, that situation got just way out of hand. It just all fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, Ertz is relatively young. He's not super young, but anyways, it looks like we lost Gabe, but yeah, I mean, I think Jonathan Taylor's safe, still going to have that role, maybe even better because now they're worried about, Carson Wentz can actually run a little bit and he has more ability. So I think, if anything, this is better for Jonathan Taylor, to be honest. And we can see stock rising.
The only one, actually, now that I think about it, so when Gabe and I talked earlier, I mentioned Namin Hines. So Carson Wentz doesn't throw to his backfield as much as Phillip Rivers did. Now, he still does. He still had some high-profile
That's a good
guys.
point. Phillip Rivers loves throwing to his running backs.
Dude, and Namin Hines was fantasy relevant. I don't care who you were. If you put him in your lineup, he was getting you between 10 and 25 points every week. He had a couple of bust weeks, but most of the time he was RB2 last year.
It might hurt him, to be honest.
Yeah, that's the one guy.
But I think Taylor solidified himself last year. So,
yeah.
That'll do it for this topic on Wentz and the Colts and the Eagles as well. Let us know in the comment section what you guys think. Where do you think these guys are going to end up? I mean, we recognize maybe right at this moment, Wentz might be the more talented quarterback if you're talking about throwing ability. But we'll see how it ends up when the season starts. That's Justin, that's Joe, and I am Jacob. Thank you all for watching this video. We'll see you next time.